Welcome to everyone to Sauce Time Gaming. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video once again. And today we're going to continue with our recoil breakdown series with the AS44 assault rifle. This is episode 5 of the series, and we're going to be covering this weapon. And you're going to find out that this weapon, even though it has a couple of broken mechanics, it's not really going to be the most broken weapon out there. But without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I've started adding timestamps to the video, so you can choose to skip, my cordial greetings to you, if you will. And you can just skip over to the testing phase or to the results phase. Of course, if you stick around for the whole video, I would truly appreciate that. But just so you know that you can use those timestamps to skip over to different parts of the video. If you do appreciate the extra effort that goes into it, let me know in the comment section down below. A thank you is way more than enough. So let's talk about the AS44. Now, I have a couple of builds for you here. Of course, I'm going to give you what is sort of the best all-rounder build, in a way, the meta build. I'm going to be talking about the burst build that this weapon has, because it does have a burst, a barrel that gives you the burst feature. And we're going to talk about sort of the conditional recoil that the weapon can have, likely using the Bipod, right? Which is always an attachment that people overlook, but has great recoil control potential. So let's talk about those setups and a little bit about what's broken with this weapon. So the only thing that I sort of found out, and at least I've done, again, this is episode 5 of the recoil breakdown, but I found out that the AS44 is the first weapon I've discovered that if you kit it correctly, you can get literally 0 idle sway, which is sort of the moving from side to side as you hold an ADS on a weapon. And you can see from this clip right here, although, the Vanguard weapons, if you kit them correctly, they can have very low. I've never found a weapon with 0 idle sway, and the AS44 definitely takes that spot. So, now that we've covered sort of the specialty of it in a way, let's look at the testing and how the results for each attachment went. So the first thing we always do, of course, is test the base recoil of the weapon, right? Followed by the 3 muzzle attachments we have that control recoil. After that, we test the barrels. We have 2 barrels that control recoil, and then we have, of course, the burst barrel, right? So we went ahead and tested those. The biggest difference between the recoil control barrels is mostly the mobility and then the damage profile to headshot damage specifically. After that, we test the underbarrels, which were all very similar as always, with the Bipod being the best recoil attachment or recoil control attachment always, but it's a conditional one. The only mag type we have is the 50 round, which really tightens up the recoil pattern, which is great. The grips here, we tested those out. If you did watch any of the previous recoil breakdown videos, there were 6 grips that helped with recoil. Now it seems there are only 5. I don't recall which one they removed or changed the stats for, but they did change one, because now we only have 5. And then there are no perks that help control recoil independently. There is one for accuracy, but accuracy is irrelevant right now. So those were the attachments and the test results. Now that we've seen the attachments, let's go ahead and talk about the actual setups. So for the meta setup here, we're going to be running the Mercury silencer. Surprise, surprise, because for all other weapon builds, we have been using the MX. However, we want to maximize on our recoil control if we want to use this for longer ranges. So the only con for this attachment is the damage range, which we're actually compensating by using this specific barrel, the Kovalevskaya 615mm barrel. Which does give us a little bit damage range to get that back, right? We're going to be running the Carver Foregrip here, because this will just give the best recoil pattern. And we're going to be pairing that up with the Polymer grip, because these two together seem to give a good recoil pattern, or a better recoil pattern than all other attachments. The Gorenko 50 round mags here for, again, the added recoil control. And the ZAC 12B custom, which gives us the initial fire and recoil control, because this weapon does kick initially a little bit more than all others. So this is pretty much the skeleton build of the long range setup for this. Now the ammunition, you can run whatever you want, the optic as well, and the perk 1 and perk 2 is whatever you want as well. This acquisition perk, I've heard a couple of people talk about it. Now, accuracy is totally irrelevant right now for the Vanguard weapons, because they removed bloom. So this attachment is completely useless right now. So I would recommend you run something completely different. I don't think momentum was working. I might be wrong, but I think I checked it. I didn't feel like it was working when I tried it out. So maybe try something like sleight of hand to reload quicker, and perk 2, you're likely going to run fully loaded because it's the best one there. Now, for the burst setup for the AS44, we're going to be talking about the skeletal build for this weapon is, of course, the 420 millimeter burst barrel. We're going to be running the stippled grip and the ZAC-12B custom. Now, the reason why these two are being ran is because the recoil recovery stat on attachments is what recenters your weapon after you stop shooting. Now, for a burst weapon, when you shoot the burst, the center automatically the weapon is going to automatically recenter because you're pretty much done with your shooting sort of animation. So we're getting recoil recovery on the stippled grip, and we are getting recoil recovery on the ZAC-12B custom stock. So that's what's going to recenter your screen so quickly that you're going to be able to get that zero recoil setup that you can see in this clip right here. So once you have the skeleton build, everything else is for the most part up to you. So you can run the MX silencer if you don't want to lose on damage range. And if you do run the MX silencer, you can go ahead and run the Mark 6 Skeletal to kind of compensate for the aim down sight speed that you lose from the silencer. If you do want to run the Mercury silencer, then you can go ahead and keep that one there. If you want to use any other barrel differently than this one, you can, but I would stay with the Mark 6 Skeletal anyway. And then you can run the 40 round 7.62 by 54 millimeter rounds, because these add to your damage range, so you're able to actually compensate for the loss of the Mercury silencer. And to be honest, you can run any magazine attachment here because the recoil is still non-existent with this burst barrel, and specifically these two attachments on the weapon. So you can get creative on what you want here. Again, MX silencer, you can compensate with the Mark 6 Skeletal and then use any barrel, or the Mercury silencer, which again you would probably want to run the 40 round mag just to compensate for the damage range, but again, that's up to you. And then the optic, whatever you want to run. The ammunition type as well. I'm just building it how I would probably have it. I'm still deciding on what I want on perk 1, but for now, maybe steady or sleight of hand, and then fully loaded here. And then finally, for the best recoil control, again, it's a conditional recoil control. This is the skeleton setup you would want for this. The Mercury silencer, which you're going to lose on damage range, but you're running the first barrel here to get that damage range back. You're going to be running the Bipod, which is so far, and for this weapon again, the best attachment to control recoil. The only one that it hasn't felt like the best is for the Bren, actually. But for the AS44, it is a fantastic option, and it's probably going to be the main option I'm going to be using. As you can see from the clip here, it gives a pretty tight pattern even when you're not crouched or prone. So you're going to be running the 50 round mags here again for that extra recoil control. Run the stippled grip tape here instead of the polymer, because the stippled grip tape just goes better with the bipod. For some reason, the testing just showed that. So I would recommend that if you take the bipod, go with the stippled grip tape, and then again, the ZAC-12B custom stock. Everything else is completely up to you, whatever you prefer. Now, you will of course get more recoil control depending on the sight you're using, and this is for all setups. So just make sure you check that the pros on the sight you are using have the actual stat of recoil control, because if not, then it's not necessarily or shouldn't be giving you any recoil control additional to what you've already built. And then the setup here, maybe sleight of hand and fully loaded. With that, you have your 3 best AS44 setups. If you do want to check these out, you can do so in the comment section down below. I'll leave those builds there just if the clip was a little too quick, or if you didn't want to pause and get it from the video itself. So, what are my final thoughts on the AS44? Well, I think that casual players will likely not find this weapon helpful. It is currently part of the ground loot, and people can probably get away with some nasty clips up close. but nothing too special. The moment the range gets a little too far, you're gonna start finding out that this weapon is not the best for long range engagements. So I initially thought that this would be sort of the new M13 for those that were really passionate players about the M13. But unless a recoil buff happens, then I don't think this weapon is gonna be anything better than an SMG sort of purposed assault rifle. And I think that if anything, only above average players will be using it, because you're probably going to have to not suppress the weapon to get an extremely fast fire rate. And, again, even if you kit this weapon out, you're running out of ammo very quickly. The recoil pattern is at longer ranges just not the best, to be honest. And even with the zero idle sway and the sort of no recoil burst setup, I felt in my time using it that it was just very inconsistent. Sometimes I would break someone's armor immediately and down them, and sometimes I would just feel like I was getting infinite amount of hit markers. So that pretty much concludes episode 5, to which I hope you enjoyed and found helpful. Remember to check out the rest of the playlist and comment down below if you would like a weapon broken down earlier than all the others, but eventually we will get to all of them. So thank you so much if you reached this point of the video. If you want to watch all the regulars for Sauce Time Gaming, subscribe to the channel. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I hope you always remember Sauce Time Gaming.